Welcome to another installment of Turn Up the AC Hot Takes with Reason on a solo edition. All social media information will be posted in the description below. We ask that you please go ahead and hit the like and subscribe while you're at it so you can be notified when the latest content is available. As you can see from the title of this video, I'm talking about Errol Spence and Danny Garcia's potential WBC and IBF Welterweight Championship bout coming up in the fall. Danny Garcia recently announced on his Instagram Live that he will be fighting either Manny Pacquiao or Errol Spence Jr. Manny Pacquiao is currently the WBA welterweight champion, recently beating undefeated Keith Thurman. And he was talking about, potentially fighting either of those guys, and it's looking more like it's possibly going to be Errol Spence because Manny Pacquiao was supposedly in talks with potentially fighting Mikey Garcia, so it looks like we're going to get Spence and Garcia. If you remember, they were supposed to fight originally January 26th, earlier this year, but Spence had to pull out due to his car accident in October. Real quick though, before I go any further, I just want to give all the credit in the world to Errol Spence Jr. I mean, you taking this fight as your first fight back from an accident, and this is no tune-up fight. This is a great fight. Danny Garcia is a top welterweight. I currently have him ranked as a number 5 welterweight in the division. So props to Errol Spence Jr. for taking this fight, because this is a big fight. A lot of people hate on Danny Garcia, talk down on him all the time, saying he's overrated or he's a cherry picker or whatever. Just look at his resume. His resume speaks for itself. It's comparable with any welterweight, obviously, except Manny Pacquiao. But any other welterweight, Garcia's resume can stand head-to-head with anybody's. And before we go any further, I just wanted to cover the last few fights that each of these fighters have had. Errol Spence is 26-0 with 21 knockouts. In his last 5 fights, he holds wins over Kell Brook and Lamont Peterson, both by KO. He beat Mikey Garcia, dominated, won every round. And then he had a close fight with Sean Porter. That, to me, was probably the fight of the year last year in 2019. It was very exciting. 2 guys gave it their all in the ring. It was a dog fight. And I edged Errol Spence. Very close fight. I could definitely see how some people were saying Porter could have won that fight, because I had Porter winning like 3 or 4 of the first 5 rounds. So he was up going into the second half of the fight, but I think Spence turned it around, won a lot of those rounds in the middle to the end, and ended up winning. And I thought the knockdown in the 11th round was the clear, Spence won now because he got the knockdown. But Danny Garcia, he's 3-2 in his last 5 fights. Those 2 losses are to Keith Thurman and Sean Porter, respectively. They were both narrow losses, very, very close, could have went either way. But he holds wins over Brandon Rios by stoppage, Adrian Granados by stoppage, and he was also the first one to ever stop Granados. And then he also beat Ivan Redkach on January 26th to stay active. That was his original date to fight Errol Spence Jr. Danny's a strong counterpuncher. He's one of the bigger punchers in the division. And if he's able to land cleanly, he could potentially hurt Spence. He's a big puncher, as I mentioned. Let's be clear, though. Errol Spence is the favorite here. He's the bigger fighter and probably the bigger puncher. I believe Spence can land some shots on Garcia because of Garcia's footwork. Danny's flat-footed. This isn't something that should be a shock to you. We've seen him fight, and his movement isn't the best. So I think after they get into some exchanges, that Spence can potentially land some devastating shots on Danny, throughout the fight. Because I believe Danny Garcia is willing to exchange with Spence. I believe what he saw from the Porter and Errol Spence fight, he feels he can capitalize, because the only reason in Danny's mind that he lost to Sean Porter is the work rate. Sean Porter outworked him, so that's why he lost. And I think that's what Danny Garcia believes as well. So I'm really looking forward to this fight, man. We got the lefty versus righty matchup. Garcia has been trying to get himself ready for a southpaw, because he knew potentially Manny Pacquiao and Errol Spence are up, on on the horizon for the next fight, and they're both southpaws. So yeah, man, it's gonna be a fun fight. I cannot wait for it to go down. Before I continue, though, I want to mention Danny Garcia was in an interview recently this week. I forget what the podcast was, but yeah, he was talking about how he was potentially going to be moving up to 154. He didn't say when, but he was asked if he were to beat Spence, would he try to unify? But he also mentioned that 154 is definitely a strong possibility. He's been talking about moving up to 154 for a little while now. I think it's probably getting a little harder to make 147 for him. But he did say if he moved up to 154, he would be open to the rematches with Keith Thurman or Sean Porter at that weight. Also in the interview, Garcia was asked if he believes fighting in front of no fans would affect the fight or fighters. He says he doesn't believe that it would have any effect on the fighters at all, because once you're in the ring, everything else kind of, you zone out of everything else and you just focus on what's inside the ring. So he says it would affect the fans more so than the fighters. So yeah, man, I just wanted to draw my thoughts on what I thought about this fight. I think it's a great fight, big fight, very entertaining. Could be the fight of the year. I know we don't have that many fights to go off of, but it should be a very entertaining fight. I'm edging Spence. I think he would win on points, probably a unanimous decision. But with that being said, anybody who knows me knows I'm a Danny Garcia fan. So the fan in me is going to be rooting for Garcia. But I'm going to edge Spence. I just think he's that guy in the welterweight division. And unless Garcia can catch him on a counter and hurt him, I don't think he's going to be able to beat him on points. So, yeah, man, I just wanted to give my thoughts, let y'all know what I think about Spence versus Garcia. Who do you think's going to win? And would you rather see Spence fight somebody else? Would you rather see Danny Garcia fight somebody else? Go ahead and let me know in the comments who you want to see. Until next time, this has been Reason. Turn up the AC hot takes. Go ahead and comment, hate, debate, whatever you want to do. We appreciate it all. Once again, this is Reason. Turn up the AC hot takes. Until next time, we're out.